Okay. Alrighty then. In three, two, one. And welcome to Perilous World Radio. David Masters here. The topic of the day. Who is an agent in the Matrix? There's so much strangeness going on among various outlets, news outlets, podcasters, a strange meltdown over dealing with the Iranian mullahs and the madness that has been going on in the Middle East there for 47 years. Now, the question, though, is who is an agent in the Matrix? Because who do you believe when it comes down to what's being said about the conflict that I believe has been a necessary conflict that nobody else had the courage or the guts or the wherewithal to deal with? I believe that. And we have a lot of sociopathic, psychopathic people that are now capable of broadcasting their messages through various outlets like YouTube and Rumble and all the rest of it. So, yes, we have more of a balance of people that are trying to reveal the truth. I mean, if it weren't for Elon Musk, I think America would be a goner. I mean, our country would have fallen into the rabbit hole of dark socialist, communist control. And we almost lost this country. But people were cognizant enough to make a better choice for this president. But the problem now is that there is an undermining. And I think that even in the Republican Party, there are two-faced people, let's put it that way, people who are actually literally agents in the Matrix. And so the question then goes to, how do you tell which are the agents in the Matrix and those who are actual people who are on the side of what's right? That's the question. How do you tell? Because people can put on a really good face. I was talking with my wife this morning about the fact that out of every 100 people, this is based on research, and there's a book out about it, but out of every 100 people, one of them will be a psychopath. And psychopaths can be very difficult to detect, let's put it that way. They look, and they really carefully make sure that they present a very harmless, even kindly, helpful type of personality. So that they are camouflaged. Let's just put it that way. Psychopaths, sociopaths are often camouflaged. Now, they can also be, and there's many, many varieties of psycho or sociopathic people. So I have a clip I'm going to play for you of a rabbi, Jonathan Cahn. You may have heard of him. He's an interesting guy. He is one of those who delves into prophecy, and I've heard him over the years, and I don't think that he is I don't think he's a sociopathic, psychopathic liar. I think that he has a grasp. Okay. So I want to play a clip of Jonathan Cahn talking about, well, the dark side. And there's a reason for that, because what you've got to realize is that, and by the way, the reference here, the person that Jonathan Cahn is talking about in this clip is Candace Owens. Here it comes.
Many have noted many of the similarities of symptoms of mental illness and demonic possession. What is the nature of the enemy, the devil? The word devil comes from the word diabol or diabolos, which means one who accuses, who casts slander, accusations. Now, what if you notice that the person in the psych ward is not only spewing psychotic, hallucinatory babblings, but that there's a pattern that to their psychotic, hallucinatory babblings, that it continually focuses on accusation, slander against everybody, and the accusations never hold up or make sense, and they go on from one, and one doesn't stick, they go on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. One doesn't work, to the next one. Then you have to consider you may not just be dealing with mental illness and the delusions of paranoia and psychosis, you may be dealing with demonic activity or demonic possession. Because they're spewing things that the enemy would spew, sowing slander, accusation, hatred, confusion. Let's say this person in this institution who may be influenced by these things finds a cell phone, starts doing a series about a widow who just lost her Christian ministering husband who was assassinated and now has to minister without him, trying to keep the ministry going since he was murdered. And this series produced by this person in this ward, in this institution, accuses this Christian widow not only of covering up the murder of her husband, implying that, but somehow being involved, but now alludes to her being a lesbian or a pedophile. The person in the padded cell now has their sick and dark delusions produced with music and imagery and editing. You know, it might have music, but it's still, in essence, lunatic babblings of a person in a padded cell. It's equivalent to that. You might say, well, I like the music, I like the editing, I like the production values. Yeah, but the thing is, it's psychotic and it's demonic. And the thing is, it doesn't matter, because in the end, that's what it comes down to. That's all it is. It sows confusion among those who listen to him. It sows division among Christians and ministries, even hurting the support of ministries seeking to do God's will.
So the overview is he's really talking about Candace Owens and what she's doing. But see, this is really what begs the question. Is like, how do you tell who's telling the truth? And I have to say that at some level, you know, the Bible warns that even the elect will be deceived. And we're talking people who are truly sort of really good people. But it is possible that the devil is so skilled, the art of subterfuge and deception and confusion, that even those of us who have spent our whole lives wanting to know the truth, being good as we know how to be, we ultimately are the ones that the devil is really after the most. And objectively speaking, the dark side and the way that this is done, the confusion that is sown, and the spider web that is woven is around conceivable ideas. Because if it's too crazy, like recently Candace Owens said that Erica Kirk was a hybrid robot. I mean, there are cracks in the facade, and the stuff starts to bleed through. The icky, gooey stuff starts to bleed through, but there's something really wrong there. But I love the fact that people like Jonathan Cahn and others, many others, are talking about the forces of darkness, the demonic aspects of the dark side that has invaded. I mean, literally, I think the dark side has invaded our world. because the Bible warns that it will be as it was in the days of Noah. Look at what we've got now. Look at what we're dealing with. It is as it was. I don't see any giants yet, but giants of what? All right, quick break here, FHU.com. Find out more about the Be Still and Know exercise. Three, two, one. All right, continuing with this topic. So I have, the other day, there was some mention of Father Ripperger, the exorcist. And I do believe, listen, let's go back over the period of the Biden years. And there were people on news outlets, CNN, I think even Jake Tapper said that, the Republicans needed an exorcist. So see, it's a word that people will bring up when they want to, let's say, either expose or cast aspersions. You want to expose people to contempt. You want to expose. This is what the left does. The left will call us demonic and evil, those of us who are Christians, Nazis. The left will try to expose us for something that we aren't. But and that's when they will use words like demon possession and exorcism. But when it comes to self-reflection, right? When it comes to them looking in the mirror, it's a whole different story altogether. And because it is evil that says there is no evil, unless, of course, it's casting dispersions, right? And I do believe that something has happened to Candace Owens, and maybe it's just a slow motion car wreck, and you're just watching it. And you started watching it, and it looked normal in the beginning, and then, as it got closer to the actual collision with reality, then it becomes more obvious. But here is Father Ripperger, the exorcist, on the Sean Ryan podcast.
What are some of the things you've seen during an exorcism?
If you've seen it on Hollywood, I've seen it. The thing that you're going to see the most of is morphing, which is basically where the person changes form or shape. Everything from just them kind of look like a man all the way down to they'll change into the shape of animals.
Like a skinwalker?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you personally seen this?
There was one case I had a long time ago where there was kind of like a snake figure. I did assist a priest in a case where anytime the priest would put his stole on the back of the person's head, the front of the person's face would just go and change into the shape of a wolf. With levitation, I just don't tolerate it.
What are you thinking when you see levitation?
I get annoyed by it, frankly.
That's it? You just get annoyed?
The case that I had, one of them was Ball. He likes levitating. So I just don't tolerate it because he's trying to distract you. Personally, I've only seen it twice. But that's only because I tend to see other things, like extreme forms of occult knowledge where people know stuff that there's no way this person could ever know this. This guy that was possessed started speaking a form of Phoenician that had been defunct for 3,500 years. This kid didn't even finish high school.
What are some of the other things that you've seen? Somebody that can turn their head 360 degrees, the spider walk.
The thing I tend to see the most is the demons manifesting in their characteristics in a full-blown manner. For example, with Beelzebub, he looks the same in every case I've ever had him in, where the jaw extends out, the eyes become bloodshot, they narrow, and the top of the head narrows. Seen a lot of color changes. Saw a woman, she was possessed by a demon who responded to the title Vitae Raptor, which is robber of life. The first time we got him to manifest, literally her face just like caved in and she literally turned completely jet black like a corpse.
What are some of the things you've seen during it?
Yeah, crazy. I mean, yeah, it's unbelievable, but at the same time, who are you going to believe? That's the question. Who are you going to believe? And why? What is it that makes a person inclined to believe somebody like Candace Owens, for example. And now, is it because we are beings that have a proclivity toward believing lies as a result of events that occurred remotely in history, Adam and Eve? Don't worry. Nothing will happen to you. That fruit doesn't want you to know what he knows. I mean, the appeals are just amazing. And the thing is, the more believable these appeals to the dark side are, the more you may be willing to consider, right? And the other thing is that's interesting. The Rolling Stones had a song called "Sympathy for the Devil." The word sympathy means to feel the same. Well, how many people do you see out there that are, I mean, Candace Owens was running around talking about how she felt that somebody was going to assassinate her. She believed it. Doesn't that sort of engender some kind of association? Like, oh my goodness, look, well, they've done it to so-and-so. Powers that be. Israel controls America. Come on. When you get in the presence, and remember how subtle, it was subtle in the sense that when Jesus was out in the desert fasting for 40 days and 40, the devil appears, Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, and he says, you see all this? Look, he came with a reward first, right? Always some kind of reward. Now, in sociopaths and psychotic, crazy people, they want to maintain a facade of believability. They want you to believe that they are not the person that they really are. They want you to believe that they're lovable and acceptable and so on. The devil tried to seduce Jesus. Tried to seduce him. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it amazing that so what does it tell you? That the devil has no actual power. It is only by through suggestion. When Jesus was in the desert, he was weak at his weakest point. The devil comes and says, if you'll just worship me, all of the world is yours. So, who do you believe? And who is an agent in the matrix? How do you know? Now, and I think a big part of it is that it is like a language. And it is a language that you acquire because when you come into this world, you don't have a native language. You acquire the language of your environment. But it's the same thing on the inside. The spiritual sense of things is that you acquire a language of love of truth. But if you're a lie lover, then you're going to acquire the language that connects you to the lies. I will continue this after a break. FHU.com. Be still and no exercise. It is the separator. It's the sieve, right? It separates you. FHU.com. Three, two, one. All right, continuing with the program. Yes, we have the proclivity, I think, without even having any sense of that from the time and even before we come into this world. But even though we, as human beings, come into this world as innocent, there still You hear about people that are genetically predisposed to whatever. And there are people that do have genetic conditions. My son Alexander, the flattest feet you've ever seen in your life. Now, my dad had flat, so it kind of runs in the family. Well, of course it runs in the family, but again, I don't have flat feet. I'm the actual opposite. I have like really high arches. It's really weird. Hard for me to find comfortable shoes because they don't accommodate my really high arches. But there are things that are genetically predisposed within each of us. Blue eyes, brown eyes, blonde hair, black hair, blah, 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 blah. Skin this and, heart disease that and God knows what. But we don't have a genetic disposition or predisposition for a particular earth language, human language. But within us, I believe, and I've seen it my whole life, there is a proclivity toward one system of operation or another. And the system of operation, as you can imagine, I'm talking about is either being a good or a bad person. You can talk about Hitler or Idi Amin Dada or the Mullah Khamenei or whoever. Are people born into the world and predisposed to being subservient to evil? I have to say that I believe that is true. And of course, the upbringing has a lot to do with whether or not that actually happens or whether or not they are shepherded toward a godly way of life. And so we have, and I'm just asking the question, how do you know who to believe? Now I'm going to play some Roy Masters here.
Yeah, so being upset, anything that can upset you creates a state of emotion, and pretty soon you lose reason, and you tend to believe the seducer, or especially so if they're prominent. All right, now, like a movie star, but a politician more likely, or a deceiver, or a liar, or someone who wants to rob you and embezzle your money and your family. You'll see the contradiction, but you're not able to speak up to it. They're able to confuse you about, your wife can do it, your husband can do it, your children can do it. Kids do it to each other, teachers do it to children.
Yes, it is true. And again, I just wonder, and and the other thing is, let's just talk about this for a moment. The conditioning of your life that maybe sets you up to be subject to seductive kind of people. And I have to tell you that in the Garden of Eden, if you take a look at deconstruct it for a minute, in the Garden of Eden, as I said before, the serpent approaches with a gift. What's seemingly a gift. Look at that beautiful fruit. And Eve says, well, it does look attractive and good for eating. And so the idea is that if the devil came as a snarling monster, your natural survival instincts would cause you to run away and go into a fight or flight. But you understand, the devil understands the fight or flight. Objectively speaking, the devil knows that the tactic of seduction is a hell of a lot more effective. And so why is it that people get addicted to sensual things? That's the question. Because it appeals to a big part of our human condition, sensual self. And so it always looks like you're getting something, right? Whenever there's an appeal to the sensual human side, it's not going to be a form of threats. Now, in Iran, where you have a radical theocracy, well, everything is a form of a threat, and that is, but see, that was something that was instituted. Remember what happened in Iran, just as an aside. Back 47 years ago, Iran was becoming more of a westernized country. And that would have been a stability in the Middle East. Women were walking around without the headscarves on. And, in Iran, women can only show their eyes. Otherwise, they are murdered. But you see, the theocratic, radical Islamists hate truth. And they hate, and because truth represents freedom. Jesus said, know the truth and it shall make you free. The two are inseparable. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to suffer and pay a price for loving the truth. Because we will always have to pay a price for loving the truth. Because there is a sacrifice in obedience to God. You sacrifice the love of the world. The love of the world makes you an enemy of God, puts you at enmity, makes you an enemy. And so I'm just saying, just as objectively speaking, so, and communists, a big brother of 1984, torture, mutilation, mind control. I'm just saying. But we've had that in our own country. MK Ultra. We've had our own agencies try to figure out how to mind control all of us. And by the way, they've been successful. Yeah, for the most part. You still have some tiny bit of freedom, right? But you've lost most of it. Yeah. So, all right, I got another one here. Bob Proctor. Not sure. I'm sure he's a minister. I forgot what this was now because I grabbed it a couple days ago. But let's listen to Bob Proctor.
Found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
What do you mean? I know my name, I know my age, I know where I live.
That's not you, though. If you ask the average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, I'm Bob Proctor, but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are two words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, well, this is me, but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like you never phone down here to the studio and say, body won't be in today. It's sick. Okay. We don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? Well, that's an interesting question. Mm-hmm. And I believe if a person will start to study that and look for the answer, they'll find it. See, I think we live simultaneously on three planes of understanding. We're spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies. Okay. But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's what we talk about on this program. Anyway. And you hear it more and more. I think that there is a renaissance, a rebirth, an awakening. But also with the awakening comes the pushback. Look at how much people hate our president. They are the Trump derangement syndrome. And it's worse than derangement. It is, I don't know. To me, it's demonic. And the question then goes to, well, how many demonic beings are there? And you know what they have told? They themselves have said, we are legion. So there's probably 2 for every human, or maybe 10, who knows? But there are forces at work in our world really trying to eat away at our ability to know the truth, because the truth and freedom are synonymous. They go together, and that doesn't mean you're not going to pay a price. That doesn't mean you're not going to pay a price for loving the truth and loving those who love the truth. Like we conservatives, we who have a faith in a God, we pay a price. We are probably the most discriminated group in all of history. But it's not new. we've been discriminated against ever since Jesus walked the earth. And before that, the Jews, the Jewish people, the Jewish race, discrimination based on hatred of truth, hatred of God. Basically what we're dealing with. And so with regard to Candace Owens, a sad person who is being used as a puppet, a meat puppet with a mind and a soul, sadly, something's gotten a hold of her. And Jonathan Cahn pointed it out. He thinks that she's demonically possessed. But then again, when you see people acting out, acting strangely, we're talking about sociopaths and psychopaths, you realize that out of every 100 people, there is a sociopath or a psychopath. There's no doubt about it. I think I have 2 in my neighborhood. I'm pretty sure I've identified him. One got a brain surgery, and that guy started leaving everybody alone. But he would literally, if my wife and I were walking down the street, he would come out of his house and follow us. Weird guy. And then one of my neighbors that I've talked about before, who is an attorney. Crazy. I mean, crazy. And so just beware. And now, luck favors the prepared, and when you're prepared with the be still and know exercise, that is where you have the decided advantage. Because you can detect them. Detection is part of freedom. FHU.com is where you find out more. And welcome back. It is Perilous World Radio. One more interesting clip here of Keanu Reeves, Neo from The Matrix. Tells a story. Interesting guy. Very interesting guy. And I just think that this is worth playing for you because, you can tell... Well, you can tell them by their fruits. And from what I've read about Keanu Reeves, he's very good to the people that he works with, and takes parts of his earnings and gives it as bonuses to people on his movies. And so, but this kind of reveals more about him. And let's see here. You shall know them by their fruits, right? So for your own life and in your own life, you wonder about people. And I think one of the ways to determine who you're dealing with is to find out what their favorite story is. Now, this is supposedly Keanu Reeves' favorite story.
One of my favorite stories is in a mother's womb with 2 babies, and one turns to the other and says, "Do you believe in life after delivery?" And the other replies, "Why, of course, there has to be something after delivery. Maybe we're here to prepare ourselves for what will be later." "Nonsense," said the first. "There's no life after delivery. What kind of life would that be?" "I don't know," said the second. "But there'll be more light than here. Maybe we'll walk with our legs and eat with our mouths. Maybe we'll have other senses we can't understand now." First goes, "That's ridiculous. Walking is impossible, and eating with our mouths, that's absurd. The umbilical cord is what scientifically supplies nutrition and all that we need, but it's far too short. Life after delivery is to be logically excluded." And the second says, "What if it's just different than it is here? Maybe we don't need that physical cord anymore." The first goes, "Okay, if there were life after delivery, then tell me, why has no one ever come back from there? Delivery is the end of life, and in the after delivery is nothing but darkness and silence and oblivion. It takes us nowhere." And the second says, "But certainly we'll meet Mother, and she'll take care of us." The first goes, "Mother? You actually believe in Mother? If Mother exists, where is she now?" And the second goes, "She's all around us. We are of her. It is in her that we live. Without her, this world would not and could not exist." And the first says, "I don't see her. It's only logical that she's not here." To which the second replied, "Sometimes, when you're in silence and you really listen, you can perceive her presence. You can hear her loving voice calling down from above. They're one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful story on a very practical level, and really, it does describe kind of our relationship with God, and what we deal with is more of the perception issues and more of what we don't believe in than what we do believe in. We deal with deception day in, day out. I asked the question at the beginning of that, how do you know who's an agent of the Matrix? And I guess the answer is that you can know them by their fruits. What do they produce? What do they do? What don't they do? And I can't help but say that I believe that these legions of dark beings, these demonic things, spiritual force, if you could put on a special pair of glasses, like in the movie They Live, you would see people, I would say mainly on the left and some on the right, surrounded by these forces. And then you would maybe also see angels, angelic beings, beings of light, and protective beings. So, we are stuck, and I don't think we're human beings. I've changed my mind about that. I believe that we are spiritual beings experiencing a human life, and not the other way around. That's all I can tell you. Agents in the Matrix. But aren't we all? Aren't we all agents in some kind of metaphysical matrix? And I imagine that people can change sides. Keanu Reeves was in a movie called Constantine, in which he was able to kind of traverse between the world and hell. And in the story, he goes into hell to try to retrieve a soul, save somebody. I think that we can change sides, because I think that we are sort of, in a way, born into not a heaven on earth, but a hell on earth, but when we are saved by the grace of God, and that means getting something you don't deserve, what grace is. When you get salvation, you turn your life over and you submit to the higher power, your life then reflects the heaven on earth instead of hell. Just saying. I mean, I've seen it happen to people, but I've seen people flip the other way too. Seen good people compromise, and see it all the time. It's a chessboard of people changing sides. And just be aware, because 1 out of every 100 people is a psychopath or a sociopath. And then how do people get elected? Well, they do exactly what the devil did in the Garden of Eden. They always come looking like a gift. All right, check out FHU.com and the Be Still and No exercise. And on the premium side, tens of thousands of hours of information and radio programs by myself, Roy. All right, welcome back. It is Perilous World Radio, and for your listening pleasure, I have more of a conversation between myself and my wife, Allison. Here it comes. A U.S. survey found that 77% of Americans aged 40 and older expect their own personal mental cognition to slip. Wow, That's kind of frightening. Self-fulfilling prophecy, anybody? Given all that, the Yale University findings land as something of a wake-up call and raise a pointed question about whether expectations around aging might influence the very outcomes people experience later in life. It is self-fulfilling prophecy, and the Bible says this: as you think, so you are.
Right.
So that's the power of the mind. Now, if you're positive about it, and this study basically says, let me find it right here.
It's kind of like you are what you eat, in a sense. What you put in is what you become. What you feed into your body, physically, mentally, spiritually, is what you become initially.
Right. On this particular study, on Study Finds, it says, thinking positively about getting older may shape how you age. And this is from the Yale University study. Look, it is true. And if you have been programmed with negative thoughts about aging, let's just say, for example, you had to take care of somebody that had aging issues like dementia or bone problems, that makes you have a projection of your own future. I mean, when you look at old people, you say, oh my gosh, I have to say, aging sucks. It's terrible. Getting old it's almost like a curse. But at the same time, it's unavoidable. So how do you find the right attitude? That's the question. And the right attitude can be attained through learning how to be more objective and less emotional about the feelings that you have, because everybody has feelings. Everybody has these ideas about what it's like to be beautiful and youthful. We were talking about that earlier.
Right. And that's why I really, truly believe that keeping your body healthy, not so much for the appearance of looking perfect or looking your best, which I do believe how we present ourselves is important, but it's more important to be able to take care of your body. It is our vessel that allows us to function, to do whatever our purpose here is on this earth, to be able to, whatever it is that we do. So we all want to live a healthy, long life for the most part, I would hope. So it's so important to look at that, look at the body as it is our vessel to allow us to fulfill whatever that may be.
So with regard to that statement, in your book, you have a chapter called Perfect Face or Perfect Faith.
Right.
I like that. That's a great title. You see these women who literally spend hours painting on a face and making it look like a porcelain doll. And to me, it's not even attractive. It's like they're trying to be a mannequin.
Well, who wants to get old? Nobody wants to. It's unfortunate that our bodies do deteriorate and wrinkles come up. And I'm not opposed to keeping yourself looking your best. I believe that we need to find that healthy balance, embrace the beauty that God has given each of us, find that beauty and enhance what we already have, who we are on the outside as a lot of people now, even your gender change, but just reinforcing and keeping ourselves in a dignified, beautiful way.
Well, the Study Finds article from Yale University says positive beliefs about aging are one of the few modifiable factors identified as a predictor of getting better with age, pointing toward both individual and societal level opportunities to shift how aging is understood and approached. Now, again, you are an example, no matter what, of what to be and what not to be. And so you see people like that are living on the street and they're all bent over and, they're all on drugs and they're living a filthy lifestyle.
But who knows what's happened to those people? You don't know what kind of life, what kind of things. So we're got to be careful not to just judge, because sometimes I used to look at people that way and say, oh, that person out there was somebody's child at one point. And it breaks my heart that you think they're in that place because you don't know how they got there, possibly from parents that didn't love them or bad choices. Of course, they have to take responsibility for whatever they did.
Yeah. But I'm saying you are an example of what to be or what not to be. And so when you see somebody who's down in the dumps and living under, let's say, a spiritual oppression, because nobody lives on the street because they enjoy it. They do that because they fail somehow to figure out how to live reasonably in society. But the flip side of that is you see somebody with $1,000 silk suit or a woman who wears a purse that has a $500 price tag on it. You can
some people
look at,
don't even, and here you see it's another extreme. You see these people having these things that they believe they're getting their identity from, and it's making them more beautiful because they have that expensive purse or car. And I've always felt like, you know what? You shouldn't let the things, items of this world make you beautiful. You should, as a human, be able to make the clothes you wear or the car you drive look good because of who you are, not let the items.
well, there's a Kate Spade commercial that runs all the time on television. These young women that are walking around with a kind of purse, and it shows them floating and flying and being all glamorous.
And it makes them more beautiful because they have this name brand purse.
Yeah. And so the marketing there is this will make you and enhance you and fulfill you. The problem with most people is that they really don't have a firewall for their mind. So the ideas that are implanted grow like seeds. And so these are positive and negative, right? Positive image. I'm going to go back to a couple of years ago when they had this movement called the body positivity movement, where they put obese women on Victoria's Secret ads.
I know it used to bother you every time we walked past that, but
it still does. I think that era has ended, though,
but
because
do you see, though,
that's reinforcing negative stereotypes. It's like not only are we overweight, but we like it, and that just encourages other people rather than addressing their issues. And it's not an Ozempic issue.
Right.
It's a self-control issue, and it could be a genetic problem. Yes, it could be that some people are just heavy by the nature of
But then it gives people a free pass to say, see, fat is beautiful.
Right.
And you go to extremes. You go, well, I'm just going to be fat and eat whatever I want, and it's still beautiful.
Not my idea of what I would.
That's why I was saying balance. You're born a certain way. I try to stay healthy, even though sometimes I don't want to. It's discipline. It's keeping yourself, everything in moderation.
All right. So this kind of veers into the topic that we were discussing earlier today, which is what do you enjoy? Because see, if you enjoy, we have friends that are foodies.
Yeah.
Okay. My friend Steve is a foodie. He sends me pictures of his food. He doesn't have kids, so he sends me pictures of his meals.
My friend also.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm not a foodie because I don't live my life for the next meal. You know, I eat to live. I don't live to eat. Do you
see?
Really?
That's what's important. You eat and you make choices. I can get up and just want cookies and cake and muffins when I wake up, and danishes, and just eat all that. That's my weakness. I love sweet.
So you have a sweet tooth.
I do.
I don't know who doesn't, and of course, but
see, I know that that's not good for me. So I make better choices because I know I want to keep my body healthy. So I can be here as long as I can to fulfill whatever God-given purpose I may have.
Your sense of reason overrides your sense of impulse. That's the answer right there.
But I do give into it. Sometimes I reward myself. I'm not too rigid about it. You know, that I try and walk and I try to exercise.
Because it's not a forbidden fruit, literally. It's something
so a little
that you can
bit
have,
here and there for a treat where I don't deprive myself.
Right? You moderate. And like with me, I have diabetes, type 2.
It's unfortunate because then I can't really have that in the house, but it helps me a little bit because I think I don't want to tempt you.
Because I won't overindulge. I'll have a piece of cake once in a while. I don't have it every day. I'm not totally 100% disciplined, but I'm pretty disciplined because I don't want to die early.
But this is how I look at balance, not so much depriving or not having that nice purse. It's okay. I like nice things. Certain brands may.
The whole idea here is this. You got to discover what it is that actually makes you happy. I think that's the bottom line. Right. For me, I was describing to you that everything for me is a creative activity. It's a creative expression. But, if I'm going to get out and go on my big skateboard, it's a creative expression.
See, here, my brain works different, and maybe that's what's attractive to us, opposites attract. I try to think, like I would say, okay, but put your helmet on and don't go too fast, or it could just be in nature because I'm a woman, protective, have children. So
we should talk about that. All right, there's more to come, and please check out FHU.com for more. All right, welcome back. And I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation that I'm having with my wife, Allison. Yeah, I really think that these kind of conversations are important because they're the kind of conversations that everybody should be having. A lot of times people just don't have, communication. And communication, especially in relationships, is every. So, and I hope you guys are enjoying this. Here comes part 2. What makes you truly happy? Well, let's just say that you are stuck on reminiscing on the past because the past were the glory days and everybody looked at you a certain way and you had your life structured in such a way as that about what you wanted and you did the things you wanted to do. But the priorities of having to let go of what was and then reprioritize what is, that helps you, and it actually causes you to discover what really actually works. And when you discover what really actually works, you can find joy in that.
Right.
You don't never have to lose your love of doing the things you love to do.
That's why I explained that in my book about just having that. You don't necessarily, you start exercising and taking care of yourself more for being able to function better, to continue to do the things you enjoy that bring you back to that childlike place that we all want to continue, but with the wisdom that we know now.
Yeah, that's a great point. You should have a benefit factor of having lived, decades and survived all the things that you've done, whether you had disease. Me, I've suffered with skin cancer. Terrible thing to have to deal with, but I'm still here. But see, the idea is that when you are equipped with information and knowledge, and there are attitude adjustments that you can make, that most people have no idea how important those things are.
And I think attitude is one of the most important, because you see these people that live over 100, and you ask them, what is their secret? Really, it's their attitude.
Yeah.
And I believe that having that in God within us is one of the most important thing, because then you're able to function.
You're functioning at your maximum, as opposed to being dragged, kicking and screaming backward into negativity and into despair and into fatalism. Because attitude has to do with 2 components. Either things are going to get better in your mind, or they're going to get worse. Now,
and your body responds accordingly.
Of course it does. Your body responds. Your mind is the most powerful component, and tapping into, now through meditation and through a true faith. And people get squeamish about talking about religious beliefs, but just that idea, I got to tell you the story that I read to our children. And it was about these missionaries that went on a mission to the deepest jungles of Brazil. They met a tribe of people that had never actually had contact with the outside world, and they tried to preach the gospel to them. And so the tribal leaders wanted to kill them, and they drove them out. And then as they were packing up to leave from their mission, this one native comes through the jungle, and he approaches them, and they wanted to understand what had happened to him. And through the interpreter, he said, when I found out that your God was a God of love and forgiveness, he said, that's what I want. So the other natives wanted to stay in the mass formation where they were regimented and controlled by these weird, strange gods. This one guy got it. So this is the idea, is that our God is a God of love. And if you feel that you're loved, don't you think that's going to make you want to live longer and be healthier and take care of yourself better?
But unfortunately, not everybody has a life that, they have that. Some people are born into a family that there is no love. So how do they find that? How do they get to experience? That's why when you look at these people out there, these homeless people, what they've been through.
I use the example of the salmon that swims back upstream to spawn. If you scramble the brain of a salmon, it won't know where to go, and the entire species will die out. There's something in each of us, though, that has a natural inclination to want to find a relationship with our Creator. Throughout human history, I don't care if it's 1,000,000 or 100,000 or 10,000 or 5,000 years ago, we've all had a natural instinct, a natural homing signal, and all you have to do is allow that homing signal to awaken you. And that's how you find it, regardless of your environment.
Tell people that have never known or understand that?
By talking the way we do right now. We're talking about the power of understanding, the power of awakening. In the Bible, Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. The struggling that we go through, much of it is actually in vain, because the instruction is right there. Get quiet and allow God to find you. You don't even have to look for God. The truth is, God is looking for you like the sheep. The shepherd is looking for the lost sheep. And if you're a lost sheep, God wants you even more. God will find a way to communicate to you. Like the Truman Show. Remember the Truman Show movie with Jim Carrey? There was one woman who tried to tell him that he was in a construct and that it was artificial because he didn't know it. Everybody else around him knew that the construct that he was housed in was artificial, but him. This one woman cared enough about him to try to break in and deliver that message to him. Is like, your life is being overly managed. You're not living your own life. Everybody's structuring it. So God is going to try to find a way to get through to you. And, it could be a song that you hear. It could be somebody says something and it sparks something in you. That is the magic right there. You just have to be ready to receive the message. What makes you truly happy? Well, let's just say that you are stuck on reminiscing on the past because the past were the glory days and everybody looked at you a certain way and you had your life structured in such a way as that about what you wanted and you did the things you wanted to do. But the priorities of having to let go of what was and then reprioritize what is, that helps you, and it actually causes you to discover what really actually works. And when you discover what really actually works, you can find joy in that. Yes, indeed. Letting go and decluttering your life. That's what it's really about, is rising above what has been. You can't live there. You can't live in the has-been place. Be Still and Know exercise is where you find that stairway above to the next level. And for those who have used the exercise, Be Still and Know, they do know, you all know, that there's something beyond this. Find out more at FHU.com. All right, continuing with the program, conversations with my wife, Allison. And the more you communicate with the right purpose and the right intent, communication, I mean, again, I was talking in the first hour. How do you know who's in the matrix? Well, you listen and you pay attention and you observe. And don't doubt when you see something. And there's those moments where you have a sense of something, but you don't quite know how to put it in perspective. You know what I'm talking about. And one of our friends, Eyes to See on the chat, says that I felt the demonic force behind the spirit of anti-Semitism. See, there are forces at work, and you can sense them. Right? Really? You have more than one, set of senses. It's not just the six senses or the five senses. Yeah, the sixth sense is the metaphysical sense of things. And so communication and listen to what people are saying. Pay attention to your intuition. Ah, yes. Pay attention to your intuition. At the age of 50, you have, as a person, you have more understanding about the meaning of life, the meaning of your life, the things that you should or shouldn't do, and the reasons why. When you're young, you don't have any of that. It's all experimental. Unless, of course, you're being regimented by some person to be a robot. And who wants to be a robot? You don't want to get old, but at the same time, there are benefits to being old. And if you don't get old, you can't even imagine, okay, how many times have you said to yourself, if I could go back to being 18 years old, knowing what I know now.
I think I hear everybody, most people think that way.
Yeah.
If I only knew now.
Yeah.
What is it saying?
If I only knew then what I know now. Yeah, that's the truth.
Unfortunately, that's not.
Well, experience is the only way you get there. You cannot. Yeah, you can watch videos of the moon landing and watch the astronauts walk on the moon. Not like going there. It's a whole nother story. When you go there, you have experiential knowledge as opposed to conceptual knowledge. So when it comes to aging, it's the same thing. The average person, if you look at aging and you judge the condition of aging by watching old people, it looks terrible. But at the same time, you can age graciously, like you were saying earlier. There are things you can do. I remember one time, many, many years ago, I was in a park, and I saw this woman who must have been somewhere around 80 years old, who still had a very attractive face, long white hair, and she was on the pull-up bar. And I thought, wow, this lady, somehow she's got something that others didn't acquire. Is a can-do attitude. And I think attitude is a key. So if your attitude is negative toward aging, that contributes to aging. If your attitude is positive, and you, like for me, I was thinking the other day, I'm getting up in age, but I want to have a can-do attitude. I want to have
You have to, because you have to, what you believe and what you speak to yourself, I believe, really, if you put in like what we were speaking about earlier, what you put in is what you become, in a sense.
Yeah.
Because if you're putting in negative and talking the negative talk to yourself, that's what your body naturally is going to do. It's like your mind
over matter.
So that's why I believe having a good attitude and not even allowing yourself to not speaking negative.
Right. You don't allow yourself to speak
about
those
yourself
things.
And actually putting negative things even into your body, the food we eat, the thoughts you think.
And so what makes you happy, going back to that thought, the question, what makes you happy? What makes you truly happy? Well, let's just say that you are stuck on reminiscing on the past because the past were the glory days and everybody looked at you a certain way and you had your life structured in such a way as that about what you wanted and you did the things you wanted to do. But the priorities of having to let go of what was and then reprioritize what is, that helps you, and it actually causes you to discover what really actually works. And when you discover what really actually works, you can find joy in that.
Right.
For me, I want to go back to the things that I used to do, walks on the beach, maybe get in the water on a surfboard. But that's a small part of it because associated with that was an idea or an attitude. And there was a love of doing those things. If you don't never have to lose your love of doing the things you love to do.
That's what I was like. I explained that in my book about just having that. You don't necessarily, you start exercising and taking care of yourself more for, being able to function better, to continue to do the things you enjoy that bring you back to that childlike place that we all want to continue, but with the wisdom that we know now.
Yeah, that's a great point. You should have a benefit factor of having lived, decades and survived all the things that you've done, whether you had a disease. Me, I've suffered with skin cancer. Terrible thing to have to deal with, but I'm still here.
Wouldn't you have liked to have known better if I just put sunscreen on and did these things?
I don't think sunscreen would have been the answer. I just think
protected our boys when they were little because of what happened to you.
Yeah.
You didn't even let
There
them
you go.
go
You
out in the
learned from
sun
that.
till after 4, right?
Yeah.
After 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. Although
I mean, for
I
swimming.
spent most of my life in the sun. But see, the idea is that when you are equipped with information and knowledge, and this is what's in your book. I mean, this is the book you're writing is for women over 50 and what they need to know. And what's important about that is that there are supplements and there are regimens and exercises and attitude adjustments that you can make that most people have no idea how important those things are.
And I
Just
think attitude
little
is one of the
differences.
most important because
Yeah.
you see these people that live over 100 and you ask them, what is their secret? Truly, it's their attitude.
Yeah.
And I believe that having that in God within us is one of the most important thing because then you're able to function.
You're functioning at your maximum as opposed to being dragged, kicking and screaming backward into negativity and into despair and into fatalism. Because attitude has to do with two components. Either things are going to get better in your mind or they're going to get worse. Now,
And your body responds accordingly.
Of course it does. Your body responds. Your mind is the most powerful component, and tapping into now through meditation and through a true faith. And people get squeamish about talking about religious beliefs, but just that idea, I got to tell you the story that I read to our children. And it was about these missionaries that went on a mission to the deepest jungles of Brazil. They met a tribe of people that had never actually had contact with the outside world, and they tried to preach the gospel to them. And so the tribal leaders wanted to kill them, and they drove them out. And then as they were packing up to leave from their mission, this one native comes through the jungle, and he approaches them, and they wanted to understand what had happened to him. And through the interpreter, he said, when I found out that your God was a God of love and forgiveness, and that is the key. That is absolutely the key. Most people don't really understand how important that idea is, because otherwise what you have is the Islamic type of control mechanisms where the God is a God of vengeance and a God of anger and a God of cruelty. And I think this is one of the reasons why the Christian Bible is forbidden in, I think, most of the Islamic countries. They don't want you to know about our God, the God of love, the God of forgiveness. Think about that. Think about a God that sacrifices his life to save yours. It's a very different dynamic than you sacrificing your life for the king of the world. Very strange concept, but during the Second World War, they had the kamikaze pilots, and most of those guys, oh man, they were probably drunk as skunks when they were flying their airplanes into the ships out at sea and so on, because you can't really want to sacrifice your life unless you are inebriated in some way, shape, or form. It's really strange. So our God, yes, our God is an awesome God and does things for us and actually asks very little of us. Here comes another clip of Roy Master.
They see reality. The teachers' union, especially the teachers' union, are rife with it. The children see reality. They know that things are upside down, but they're being confused. But some of them get converted. They see that when something is upside down, reality, confusion, contradiction, like the golf thing, is reality. There's nothing wrong with it. So what's wrong with that? It's for the environment. Well, it's the same Gulf. It's the same waters. The drilling is, the oil is deeper. So, contradiction, reality, and they'd rather die and see you dead and admit they're wrong.
Yeah. How many people do you know that are like that? Boy, when I watch the news, it's shocking how they, on the left, the Democrats, they won't stand for the mother of Irina Zarutska, who was murdered on a train in North Carolina, had her throat slit. They wouldn't stand for the mother to acknowledge her suffering and her pain. These people are unbelievable. Unbelievable. And they do it right out in front of your face. And yet they still get elected. All right. FHU.com is where you find out about the Be Still and No exercise. And you will have the decided advantage once you become aware and awake. PO Box 1000, Grants Pass, Oregon 97528. Quick break, and I'll be right back.
Be careful, ladies and gentlemen. Be careful of these people and trying to convince them. Let me show you, first of all, your own, and by a little story. I have lots of grandchildren. One of them came to see me. It's not something I can't talk about because it's really sweet. He loves coming to visit Grandpa. He doesn't live very far away. And so he got on his bike and came over me, and he said, I got a problem, Grandpa. He said, well, I get a little rebellious sometimes. I said, my mom wants me to do something. And I said, I just don't want to. I said, well, what is it? Tidy my room. And I just didn't want to do it then. I said, but your mother brought you into the world. Your father brought you into the world. They're not perfect, but they're reasonable, aren't they? This is not an unreasonable thing. What is the problem? I can tell you. You have a part of you that doesn't like to be told what to do. And there's a sort of impulse to a slight something you need to overcome. And because the overcoming that makes you strong. But to yield to it just one time, you can never stop. Now, this is especially not so much with a candy bar, but especially with if you steal something, an impulse, a dollar from your father's night table. That's moral stealing, crossing a border here. Not the same thing as a candy bar. Candy bar is wise. It doesn't produce the same phenomena as if it was a moral aspect. See, and lying. And of course, with lying, the lie, when your father says, as if he didn't know, did you take that dollar? Oh, Johnny made me do it. Bingo. My goal is to reverse your corruptibility factor, and bring you back to, if you ever had it, that is, you did when you were a little boy, a little girl, and you were just born and fresh into the world. You had virtue, and it was sitting right there, and you came into a world that was hostile to it. Not even your parents understood their own vulnerability to the world they're about to introduce you to as a little child. So if we could return to that quality, if we could even remember we once had it, then we couldn't be ruled by tyrants. But the goal of the usurper and the tyrant is to make sure they get you when you're born, destroy the family, and that will happen. Get mother and father fighting with each other, get divorce, make women dissatisfied with being women, and sort of outlaw men, disenfranchise them, and make them useless objects of contempt, which that's easy to do. The person who does the demoralizing, those who demoralize, degrade, defame, character assassinate, have done a very good job of dismantling the family and establishing a Soviet Union-style dictatorship.
So it goes back to the question, how do you know who is an agent in the world matrix that we're observing day in and day out? I don't think it's that hard. Honestly, it's pretty common sense if you have any. If you've lost it, then then you can't identify with the common sense side of things. And unfortunately, when people allow their children to go into the re-education camps of public school and universities, they come out the other side with hamburger for brain. Yep, that's what happens. They get scrambled, and now whoever does the scrambling is the Frankenstein recreator. So whatever system that comes from, whatever Frankensteinian mindset that does what it does to kids, and again, we have the pedophile, demonic forces, in places that you wouldn't even believe. And then now we're finding out about all the corruption and the theft. You can feel it, right? It's like the world that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. And once you accept it, you don't even question it. You've accepted this world. Now, none of us really feel right about paying tax dollars for various things. Some people would say for war, but if you don't have wars with bad people, then you don't have a country. But for other things like Planned Parenthood, and for other things, and the corruption, as we're finding out now in Los Angeles, doctors billing millions of dollars, and they themselves, the doctors' offices, don't even know that their billing information has been used to get millions and millions of dollars. There's so much corruption in this world, but that's because a blind eye has been turned. Yeah, who cares? It's, this is the way the world works. How the average person sort of sums it up. This is just life. No. I talked about this the other day. It's like, oh, it's only human. Only human? To be a human being is a truly ultimate gift, because you have the potential for real freedom. And but life isn't worth much on the street, and life isn't worth much to governments. Do you know the number one killer of human beings? Something called democide. Governments causing people to have conflicts, sending them into unnecessary wars or creating wars. That's not what's happened between America and Iran, but democide for sure. Hundreds of millions of people killed by their government. I'm not saying our government is doing that. I absolutely do not believe our government is involved in doing that. But other governments, Islamic governments, North Korea wouldn't mind. China wouldn't mind. China, even though their population is collapsing. All right. End of show today. I hope you enjoyed it. And please visit FHU.com. Find out about the Be Still and No exercise. You have tens of thousands of hours of Roy Masters on the premium side of the website. $12 a month? That's crazy. That's just crazy. But it is there, and avail yourself of it. FHU.com or P.O. Box 1000, Grants Pass, Oregon 97528. Thank you all for listening.